Good morning and welcome into another edition of Let's Bet It. I'm Alex Glaze. He's Jared Smith. Jared, you sent me a text yesterday. We were both getting a couple swings, and I was playing on the course yesterday. You were at the driving range. Just how's the swing feeling? Because the warm weather had the muscles nice and loose. You got a nice lather going. How are you feeling out there?
I had a good lather going yesterday. It was hot here in the Northeast. It's hot again today. I don't know if I'm going to make it out to the course today. Got some dog errands to run after the show with the little guy. But yesterday was one of the – so, you turn a corner. I've had a couple of rounds in the springtime, kind of rusty, I would say. Yesterday finally got to the range for the first time, and the swing really polished off some of that rust. I'm feeling good, man. I'm hoping we get a Pickswise golf outing this summer. Hopefully we get producer Jack to, get on the whole planning brigade there and get that thing going, because I would love to get on the links with you gents and ladies. We got to get Lauren out there too.
I was going to say, we need Lauren out there because apparently she's pretty good. I've heard she's pretty good.
We can all swing it. It'll be fun.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see that. I want no smoke with Lauren. I still have PTSD from, the that Blues series. I want no smoke with Lauren. No smoke.
Maybe you get it back in this series. If you're willing to fade Colorado, which we can get to.
No. And we're going to talk more about the Avs obviously later on in the show. And I mean, spoiler alert, I'm not fading the Avs, at least in game one.
Ooh.
At least in game one. I need to see what with this Oilers team. They're a pesky bunch, but I need to see what they're about in game one. I think we're going to learn a lot from them tonight. But we'll talk about that later. We got a lot to get to. But before we get into today's show, make sure you subscribe to the Pickswise YouTube channel and talk to us in the chat. I'm looking at the chat throughout the show. Let us know what you're playing today or what you think about our plays. And, I'm keeping an eye on it. Jared's keeping an eye on it. Any comments or topics we want to discuss, we will throw out into the show. And make sure you're also subscribing to the Pickswise newsletter, Wise and Shine. There's a lot of people doing a lot of hard work behind the scenes, putting together plays for you every day so that you don't have to worry about any research. Take all the guesswork out of it. We got people working behind the scenes, working very hard, so that every morning you just got to open your email and see their logic behind the plays. And if you want to subscribe, it's in the comment section of in the description section, of the YouTube link if you're watching on YouTube with us right now. On today's show, of course, we're going to talk some baseball. Better up. We're going to talk about the Memorial Tournament with Diane Knox. We're going to talk some ice picks as we inch closer and closer to that Stanley Cup final. Talk some NBA as we get ready for the NBA finals and finish things off with our plays of the day. So without further ado, Jared, let's bet it, and let's start with Better Up. And full disclosure, you are going to carry this segment because I've been getting absolutely hammered.
Oh, no.
I know it's a long season with baseball. It
is.
But I have been getting absolutely hammered. It's been brutal. I've been trying to do some K props, and honestly, started out pretty well. But recently, it's just been the hooks, or it's been the hooks. It's been inconsistent strike zones. It's been guys getting pulled early. There's so many different factors. So I'm taking a little bit of a break, at least today, to kind of clear my mind, get my mind right as we got to get ready for the long haul. But what are you looking at today? As we look at some Nerfies and Yerfies, as we always do. Yesterday, no run first inning, 8-5. On the season, no run first inning, just over 50%. And of course, Baltimore. Well, Baltimore actually on a yes run first inning in 10 of their last 14.
They scored yesterday.
But But I was gonna say, and they've been actually like, are the
2 out of
Orioles
their
better
last
than
3.
are they closer? Are they closer than what people may think? Like I
I
think
don't know.
one of the more popular bets
Mountcastle
was
hit a home
O's.
run yesterday. That was nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they've been smacking the Red Sox. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
they
brutal.
smacked
But
them around yesterday for sure. I think to your point about baseball slumps, I mean the best players in the league go through slumps as well. On the betting side, it's obvious that it's going to happen throughout the course of the season. I think the part about betting on baseball that really makes things difficult is the way you lose and the way that you said it. Umpires having control. I lost an outs prop yesterday because the home plate umpire in the Zach Gallen Arizona-Atlanta game had an out, like literally had it in for Zach Gallen, like went out to the mound at one point and like started talking. It was the same guy that was messing with Madison Bumgarner early in the year. So the umpires can make things, yeah, exactly. The umpires can make things very frustrating in baseball. And it's a sport because of the amount of games, the sheer volume. There's 2,430 games in a baseball season. The volume makes for more variance, which is frustrating as a bettor because you're like, I bet this, and it's like the most absurd way possible that you lose. But you just have to, like running a marathon, if you've ever run one, 26.2 miles, you're not going to run all 26.2 miles the same level of effort. You're going to have peaks and valleys, and you just have to push through that and continue to go through your process. Now, you can make tweaks to your process. I've made a couple tweaks already to my process this year, and we'll talk about one of the tweaks I made between the props that I bet. But I do have a NRFI that I do want to mention, and of course, it's at Coors Field, because obviously, if I'm betting a NRFI, more often than not, it's at Coors Field. So Marlins Rockies. So the YRFI is 16-10 at Coors this year, but it's only up 1.5 units. A lot of juice to outrun there on the yes side because of the high altitude and the high totals. This pitching matchup, German Marquez, Edward Cabrera. You've heard of Marquez. I would say he's the ace of the Rocky staff, or maybe he's 1A, 1B to Kyle Freeland. 7-2 to the NRFI this year, 5-1 at home, and he's got good numbers against this Marlins lineup, 216 average in 57 plate appearances. Edward Cabrera, no one's heard of him. He's making his first start of the season. He got called up from AAA this morning. He did start last year, 7 games. He went 4-3 to the NRFI, and he had a 3.74 FIP in the first inning. He's never faced this Rockies lineup. He's never pitched at Coors Field. Take that information, probably positive that he's never faced the Rockies lineup, negative that he's never faced at Coors Field, so maybe it's a wash. The thing that really separates it for me is this Rockies lineup, which is actually a worse scoring lineup at home, slightly in the first inning, than on the road. 30% scoring rate at home, 31.8% on the road. That's surprising to me, that they have a better scoring rate in the first inning on the road away from Coors Field than they do at home. The Marlins are a terrible scoring team in the first inning, under 10%. Marquez is going to get through the first. I'm confident there. The handicap here is plus 120 for Edward Cabrera to get through the bottom of the first inning against the Rockies lineup. I'll take the chance. I like the price. We'll go with the NRFI at Coors Field today.
I like that. And you mentioned that you changed your process a little bit, and you are no longer, at least for right now, looking at K-props. I noticed the meme that you posted on Twitter. No longer looking at K-props. You're looking at walk props. Where do you even find where do you find these walk props?
DraftKings Bet365 has them. The best odds tend to be at DraftKings because most of them are juiced to the under. The flat line tends to be 1.5, but when you get the bad pitchers, it's 2.5, and there's major plus juice to the over. We've got one of those for you today. One walks prop I am saving. He's on the list. The problem is his over 1.5 is like minus 170. And listen, we bet one of these the other day, and I'm fine with laying 70 cents if you can do the math right. For Suarez, he's at home, and I didn't love it today, but I wouldn't be opposed to betting it, even though it's a high price. I'll give you – so I'm saving one of these for the play of the day. I'll give you Blake Snell over 2.5 walks. This is plus 120 over at DraftKings. He's projected for Fangraphs, has him projected for 3.1. So this is his third start of the year. He is fully stretched out, which is important on these because we want him to last as long as possible, because if he gets knocked out early, probably be more difficult to get the over number. He had 104 pitches in his last start, though, so he is fully stretched out despite the fact that it's only his third start of the year. 5 walks per 9 through his first 2 starts. He went over 2.5 on the road. He went under 2.5 by the hook at home. And when I took a deeper look at his home road splits in his career, on the road, 4.39 walks per 9. At home, 3.56. So a pretty big gap there. He is not as controlling of a pitcher on the road as he is at home. So we'll take it plus 120. I like it against this Cardinals lineup that is 11th highest in walk rate against lefties this year at 9.2%. Also, I forgot to mention this during my YRFI NRFI segment, but I'm also betting Toronto to score first at minus 110. I was looking at the YRFI in this game, but the White Sox have a 14-game scoreless drought in the first inning, so I don't want to bet on them to score in the first. I'd rather bet on them not to score against Kevin Gausman, who has been fantastic this season. 98th percentile walk rate, 88th percentile in expected ERA, 8-1 to the NRFI this season. So we're betting on Gausman to have a clean first inning, and then Lucas Giolito, who's been kind of lucky this year. He hasn't allowed a run in 4 road starts this year, but his FIP is 6.85, and he's got a 17% walk rate in the first inning. So I think he's going to give up a run in the first. Maybe not today, but at some point. If you want to bet Toronto just to score a run in the first inning, which isn't a bad bet, that's about 2-1. But we're just going to bet Toronto to score first at minus 110. Obviously, if the Blue Jays don't score in the bottom of the first, it'll reset itself. Chicago can score again and vice versa. But it's basically a coin flip, and I like the price because I'm very confident Gausman's going to get through the top of the first without giving up a run.
I like that. All right, let's switch gears and talk some golf as we get ready to take things to Muirfield Village this weekend. Let's bring in Diane Knox. Diane, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. So let's just get right to it. What can we expect this weekend at Muirfield Village? What can we expect?
Well, if it's anything like last week, we're going to see an epic collapse from pretty much every single person that was in contention on Sunday afternoon. Oh my, I know Jared was watching it. That was an insane afternoon of golf at Colonial. And for the second week in a row, the guy who was 7 shots back entering Sunday went on to win in the playoff. Sam Burns beating Scheffler. But I haven't seen a collapse like that and a severe lack of birdies on a Sunday on the PGA Tour, maybe ever.
Burns was unbelievable. And Diane, it speaks to just where the game is. We don't really think of Sam Burns as this elite golfer because he hasn't really been a part of the conversation for very long. But you look at the FedEx rankings, and he's the third rank. I'm sure his rankings probably went up this week. But going into last week, it was Scheffler first, then Cam Smith, and then Sam Burns third. So, I mean, he is one of the best golfers on tour this year. So you can't put it past him to – what did he shoot on Sunday? 65, 64 on Sunday? 65.
Yeah. And wow. This is a great thing. I was talking to someone about that. Like, you have the veterans that are almost like their game seems to be rejuvenated. And there's so many guys that have been playing on tour for like 10, 20 plus years. And they're in contention week after week. And then you have the like brand new rookies in like Davis Riley, Will Zalatoris, Cameron Young, who we talk about every week, who are in contention. And to me, Scottie Scheffler and Sam Burns are kind of in the middle now in that they've been on tour for a few years. They've got a whole load of wins under their belt. And you can never rule them out. I mean, you almost expect to see them there all the time. The breadth of talent on the PGA Tour right now is amazing. And anyone that says to me golf is boring, I'm like, you're crazy. It's just a roller coaster over 4 days.
We've had a playoff 2 straight weeks. We've had a playoff 2 straight weeks.
And if you love playoffs, then this is a tournament for you because 5 of the last 8 Memorial tournaments have ended in a playoff. So I was definitely looking at those odds this week as well. But this week is such a great week on tour. I mean, we had a really kind of old school classic course in Colonial last week. And this tournament it's Jack Nicklaus's tournament. You know, the course is affectionately known as Jack's Place. And Muirfield Village had a massive renovation just when the 2020 tournament ended, and was met with a whole heap of praise last year. So it's going to be great to see it this year. You know, the greens are notoriously difficult here. They're small greens. They're super fast. They were all recontoured and regrassed after the renovation in 2020. So we're going to see amazingly tricky greens and some of the most penal rough that the PGA Tour sees.
And you mentioned the veterans having the juices flowing. I'll tell you what, we'll get my juices flowing, $12 million. Big purse for this tournament. And I'm looking at your card, and there are some big names on the card. So why don't you run through that and tell us who you like for the Memorial?
You know, I don't like to go for the really short odds and the outright favourites, but it's hard not to look at Jon Rahm this week. And I had to dig around and found him at 10-1. You know, when he won the Mexico Open, I think he was like 7-1 or something. So, you know, whatever. It's an opportunity to make some cash. But he's got an amazing course record around here. And last year, if you'll remember, he shot a 64 on Saturday. He was winning by, I can't even remember how many shots, but he tied the largest 54-hole lead at this tournament ever. Then he was told that he tested positive for COVID as he was walking off the 18th green on Saturday. So he withdrew. Patrick Cantlay went on to win the tournament for the second time. And this really kick-started this amazing run that Cantlay went on to win the FedEx Cup. But I think for Jon Rahm, he's won this tournament before as well. And it's going to be a little bit of redemption. He has to walk out on that course this week thinking like, you know, last year this tournament was mine. And it was taken from me, you know, under really unfortunate circumstances. So, you know, at 10-1, this is probably the last time we're going to see Rahm tee up before he defends at the US Open as well. So, you know, 10-1, I had to pick him as my outright favorite this week.
All right. So here's how I would play Rahm this week, Alex. Here's how I would play Rahm this week, Diane. Top continental European is even odds. Okay. Here is the competition in that field. Victor Hovland, who's been outside of the top 40 in both appearances at Muirfield Village. It has not been a strong course for him. Alex Noren, Sepp Straka, Francesco Molinari, Rafa Cabrera Bello, and David Lingmerth, who has won here before, but clearly his game now not quite up to par, pun intended. So that's a field of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other golfers, and Rahm is a coin flips bet to beat out those guys. Hovland's obviously the main competition. So it's Hovland against Rahm that I would say is the tough one there.
Yeah. The thing about Rahm is, you know, obviously we talked about winning the Mexico Open. That's kind of the standout performance that we've seen from him this year. So that was a kind of interesting one to me, you know, and obviously we said that he was the bookies' favorite by a mile at the start of the week, even though we hadn't really seen that like consistent 4-day form from him. But he went on to win that. And I think two things. First of all, everything that happened last year and how the tournament was kind of snatched away from him, and the fact he's defending the US Open in a couple of weeks. I think that there's a lot of motivation for Jon Rahm right now.
Mm-hmm. Diane, a guy that I know that I see we're both on, but in different ways, Max Homa. Actually, side note about Max Homa. You know, he does swing ratings on Twitter. I've been meaning to send him a video of my swing.
Wow.
You're brave.
I send mine to Elk, and he sometimes responds, sometimes doesn't. I should start sending it to Max.
I'm wondering if he'll rate mine. But I have Max Homa top 10. You know, he finished 6th here last year. Been playing really, really good golf lately. 3 top 10 finishes this season. That's plus 450. I know you're being a little more aggressive with your Max Homa play, but I think we're both on the same page.
Yeah, I got him top 5 at plus 800. And well, my husband and I found out last week that we are having a little boy in November, and so's Max Homa. So immediately I'm like,
there we go.
So immediately I'm like,
we would get that in the show at some point.
I had to. It's so exciting.
Had to. I was going to mention it at the end, but you stole my thunder.
Hopefully we're going to be talking about Junior Balas years down the road contending on the PGA Tour, but we'll see. But for Max Homa, I mean, he's so hot right now. He's had 2 wins already this season. Really strong tee to green stats. 18th in approach, 27th in putting right now. He was top 10 here last year. And, I would expect him to be in contention again this week. And top 5 or top 10. I just really like the odds for a top 5 finish. And I'm being completely optimistic. But I'm glad you're on Homa as well.
Let's go. Yeah, Jared, who's on your card? Have you talked about your card much at all?
Yeah, so here's what I'll do. I'll give Diane a chance to go through her other 2 relative long shots. Lowry, not so much. Reed is, and then I'll give her a chance to go. I like it when she slices and dices my card up and tells me what matchup bets I should be on. So Lowry was interesting to me. I've been betting a lot on Lowry, probably because of you, but also because I love his scrambling and I love how he is around the greens. But you are very keen on him. He's been kind of up and down, and I think the drivers let him down a little bit, and I don't know if the length will be there for him, but the scrambling is second to none, and this week he's going to need that.
Yeah, when you say up and down, that's like the strength of his game. Scrambling is tough around Muirfield Village, and he's just a wizard when it comes to that. It's amazing. But he finished in a tie for 6th here last year. He's had 3 top 10s this season, including that T3 at the Masters. And if you look at this calendar year, 8 starts on the PGA Tour, 6 of them have been top 13. That is amazing form. Yeah, he's 6th in strokes gained total this week. We've got wider fairways at Muirfield Village, but accuracy is really important. And the approach stat is going to be key. He's 8th in approach, 11th in putting. Just phenomenal stats right now for Shane Lowry. And sand saves is another one because the greenside bunkers were all completely renovated, and they're a really important part of the strategy around this course. He's 10th in sand saves on the PGA Tour. So, you talk about his scrambling and his up and downs are just such a strength of his game right now. So Lowry at 25-1. I liked, and we've been talking about it, Jared, especially you and I, since he finished runner-up at the Honda Classic in February, that we're waiting for that win. So
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Patrick Reed also has played really well the last few weeks. I was surprised at his price this week, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And he's played well at this tournament before, 10th in 2020 and 5th last year. But the thing that did it for me and Reed is that last week at the Charles Schwab, he played a lot better. And it's weird to see how his form dipped. But his putting's always been, such an elite part of his game. And that's probably where he's putting in a bit more work right now. His stats are still good, but he got rid of his PXG driver, and I think he'd been really experimenting with that, and it hadn't been working for him. So last week he got rid of it. He got a top 10 around Colonial, but last week he was 4th in scrambling. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, those are great stats heading into this week. So with him, there's definitely still a little bit of a question mark, and as I said, room for improvement, but he's made a change off the tee, which is huge. It worked for him last week. And we know what he's like on familiar greens. And these are greens that are familiar and similar to Augusta National, where he's won before too. So yeah, I got him 65-1, which I was surprised. So good.
I like that price a lot.
Diane, you got one name on the card. I need you to explain this to me. I mean, listen, I got no problems with the guy, but there's no reason that I'm putting my hard-earned money behind Ricky Fowler. So why don't you talk about a Ricky Fowler top 10?
I'm going with a top 10 at 7-1, and I'll tell you why.
Oh boy.
Well, first of all, everyone wants Ricky to get back to his premium status on the PGA Tour because he's like the commercial golden boy, and everyone likes him. I mean, he's just a likable, great guy, but he played all right last week. We're not going to talk about the 4 bogeys that he ended with on Sunday. So hopefully he can shake them off fast and go back to a course that he loves. Ricky's one of these super loyal guys. Let's not talk about what he said about the LIV tour. And we're going to find out more about that maybe today when the announcement is made. But he loves it here. T11 last year, tied for 14th in 2019, 8th in 2018, and a runner-up in 2017. So it's a course that he's really familiar with, has had great experience around here. His form up ever so slightly. We know he's been working hard. Every week on the telecast, they're talking about, Ricky and what he's been doing to get back to Ricky of late, the old Ricky who would go out and contend all the time. So I don't know, maybe this week being back on familiar ground and, having Jack Nicklaus there. Ricky loves that part of the game. He'll always honor the legends like Arnold Palmer at Bay Hill and Jack being here at his tournament. So maybe this is going to be the little boost that he's looking for. But Ricky Fowler, top 10 at plus 700. I'm going for it.
You're unafraid. Unafraid. Diane is unafraid. So everyone's favorite, you're contractually obligated to handicap my plays and let me know if I'm on the right track. We're also contractually obligated to bet on Cameron Young every week. So I'm going to do that again this week, and I'm going to take him in a matchup. And this is tough. Honestly, Diane, this one really stuck in my craw because I hate fading Will Zalatoris, but the putting numbers at this course to me matter more. Right. He's okay this week. So Cameron Young. So the SG Tour report has Cameron Young ranked second on in your rankings this week, in your re-rankings, and Will ranked 31st. And the whole reason there is all around the putting. Now, Will has been, again, all over the place. Last 5 tournaments, missed the cut at Charles Schwab, second at the PGA Championship, missed the cut at Byron Nelson, T4 Zurich, T6 Masters. And it's the inconsistency, the volatility with the putting. Meanwhile, Cameron Young, T3 at the PGA, T2 at Wells Fargo, T3 at RBC Heritage. Maybe we should be betting on him to win this tournament. But minus 110 just to have a better score than Willie Z feels like both guys haven't played Muirfield. That is intriguing, at least. But to me, a coin flip for Willie Z to fade him against Cameron Young. I think this Cameron Young kid is coming on, and he might be the best young golfer on tour right now.
Amazing. He has just a phenomenal swing, that real pause at the top of his backswing. I have a sour taste in my mouth over Will because I was so big on him last week. And his 2 Dallas events on either side of the PGA, he missed the cut. And then you see that he played great at the PGA, obviously, and at the Masters. So is it like a Brooks Koepka kind of thing where when it comes to these big tournaments? And let's not forget that Memorial is a big tournament. It's an elevated tournament on the PGA Tour. A field of only 120 guys. There's more money up for grabs, more FedEx Cup points up for grabs. So, maybe that's going to play into him this week. But I'm the same as you. Cameron Young is going to be on my card going forward, maybe forever, because he is just an amazing talent, phenomenal talent. And even though he hasn't played in this tournament before, I think this course could suit him to a T. You'll like that one, Jared. Pardon the pun. So I like him. Definitely. You know that.
Love it. Last bet I'll give you. Matthew Fitzpatrick to be the top Englishman at minus 140. Here is this competition. I can't believe this is only minus 140 over at Bet365. Aaron Rai, Danny Willett, and Luke Donald. That's it. Those are the only 3 guys he has to beat out. Fitzpatrick's been unbelievable. I know Jack Harrison, our producer, loves Fitz, so he's going to love this bet. But he was fantastic last week. And, again, he has the temperament and the overall strokes gained. And his putting is not exceptional, but I think it's good enough to compete here. And, again, when you look at Fitzpatrick, I think he's a guy that's going to win one of these big tournaments at some point. And he only has to beat out those 4 guys to hit this bet at minus 140. What do you think, Dee?
Yeah, I agree. And you're right. Producer Jack had emailed me and he was like, I'm picking Matt Fitzpatrick now every single week. Like I have to.
Fitzpatrick every week.
He's going to do something great. But your top Englishman bet, that is amazing. Aaron Rai has had sparks of greatness this year.
Yes, but he's second on the list in the odds board. He's like plus 375 to win that bet.
But as you say, Fitzpatrick is on a really good run of form. He's always been an extremely talented player and very underrated too. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because, there's so many dominating Americans that are around him right now on the leaderboard. And Fitzpatrick seems to be a very quiet, unassuming guy. And I don't know what it is, but I think that, again, he's got experience around here too. So top Englishman. Definitely. I would definitely be putting a few quid on that.
He agrees with all 3 of my bets. It's going to be a good week.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Diane, as always, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be sure to catch up with you later.
Great. Thank you, guys. Good luck this week.
Appreciate you, Diane. And congrats to the new family. They announced it the other day that they're having a baby boy. It was very, very cute to see that. They did like a gender reveal, and it was blue. It was blue. So, baby boy for Diane and Garrett Knox Balas. Congratulations.
There we go. Congratulations to them. Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the ice. And before we get into to tonight's game, how about Game 7? How about the Rangers? We got to talk about Jack's Rangers, producer Jack's Rangers, because, I mean, that was a performance, right? Like, across the board, dominance. You know, Igor was great. You know, everyone knew Igor had to be great for the Rangers to have a chance. But, man, I mean, I'll tell you what, that Rangers offense really showed me something last night. I think that's going to be a really interesting series with the Lightning, a really interesting series.
Yeah, the Rangers have now won 5 straight, facing elimination dating back to the Penn series. And then they flash forward that here into this series. They win 2 straight, Game 6 and Game 7, facing elimination. They won 3 straight, Games 5, 6, and 7, facing elimination against the Penguins. And it really speaks to the hashtag that we have for the Rangers, no quit in New York. And that has been their motto this playoffs. Igor's a big reason why. He got pulled in Game 4 against the Pens. Since then, he has been locked in. And he's been really good against the Lightning, too. 3-0 this season with a .958 save percentage and won 3 goals against. Here's the issue. The Rangers have faced 2 backup goalies so far in the playoffs. They faced whoever, I forget, Jari was hurt. I forget who was the backup for the Pens. And then Raanta in this series got significantly worse as the series went on, and then hurt himself last night. I hope he's okay, but injured himself in the game midway through yesterday. So this is a tough series to bet because I think the Rangers might be outmatched. Like usually they have the edge in goal. They're not going to have the edge in goal in this series. So they're going to have to get other players involved. The offense is going to have to outgun Tampa's offense, which is going to be tough because Vasilevsky's phenomenal. I'm not betting this one probably tomorrow for Game 1. I'm not betting any Game 1s tonight or tomorrow, but I'm a little bit scared.
Really? Because there is a play that I think is interesting for tonight at least, right? And it's so obvious, but like Jared, all right, I understand maybe why you're sitting this one out then, because I'm looking at the total, right? And it's 7, 6.5, 7, you know, depending on when you got it or what you're looking at. I mean, when you think of the Oilers, right? What have they been doing all postseason, right? Score goals. What do the Avs do? I mean, 13 goals in their last 3 games. These are 2 of the highest scoring offenses in the postseason, right? Both averaging over 4.3 goals per game. There's not going to be a shortage of goals in this series, right? The Oilers' defense not quite up to snuff with the Avs, so I think that's going to be the difference in the series for me, because I think the Avs are going to have the advantage between the pipes and on defense. But I'm looking at the overs hit in 3 of the Avs' last 4 games and 6 of their 10 postseason games. So I'm looking at this, and I think that the over is a good play. I mean, I know it's getting plus money, so it's a little juice to the under right now. But, I mean, nothing is telling me that this game is going to go under, right? That's the way I'm looking at it. I mean, you tell me if I'm off on this. I'm leaning toward the over as a play here. I haven't played that yet.
I don't think you're off with your reasoning that this series should have goals. I think the reason that I don't like betting Game 1s is it's really hard to carry anything over from what you saw in a Game 7. Because the difference between a Game 7, or in this case for Colorado, it was a Game 6. For Edmonton, I believe it was a Game 5. The intensity level increases dramatically with each game. And so Game 1, it's hard to take any, reasonable things that you saw in the last game of the last series and carry it over. Unlike when you go from game 1 to game 2, that is a much easier handicap to carry things over. First of all, you're facing the same team. Second of all, the intensity level, everything changes. Whereas for Colorado, coming off of a game 6 in St. Louis where they looked tight early in that game, I don't know if they're going to look tight tonight at home in a game 1. I think they're going to be skating around and free skate. So I definitely think if you're going to bet any NHL postseason game, you either bet the over or you don't bet the total. I don't like betting unders in NHL postseason games because of how early the goalies get pulled, et cetera, et cetera. But when you look at how this series played out this year, so the Avs went 2-1. The under also went 2-1. And both Colorado wins were by 1 goal, and the game stayed under. Edmonton's win was 6-3, and it went over. So that would lead me to believe that if Colorado plays their style, it would stay under. If Edmonton plays their style and gets their way, it goes over. The only game that was played in Denver in this series this year was a 3-2 Avs win back on March 21st, which goes against everything that we've seen in the playoffs, which is these have been the 2 highest scoring teams in the postseason. Edmonton 4.33 goals per game, Colorado 4.3 flat, and the over is 13-9 with these 2 teams in the playoffs. So the regular season data tells me under. The postseason data tells me over. And again, when we get a clean slate like this, I like to have no opinion, no bias going into a series. I watch game 1 and I react. And that's kind of how I feel tonight. So I'm definitely not betting this game tonight. The only futures that I have still rolling are Cale Makar half a unit to win the Conn Smythe and Vasilevsky 1.5 units to win the Conn Smythe. I might add McDavid and I might add Shesterkin, but not tonight, not now. I'm going to wait. But I'd like to have one player on each team win the Conn Smythe, and then we get to the end of the rainbow, and I'm sitting pretty. But I just think in game 1, if there's one game in a hockey series that I know for sure I'm going to pass on every time, especially in a Western Conference final, it's going to be game 1. So I feel pretty good about sitting this one out tonight. But I certainly wouldn't bet the under. That's for damn sure. It's either over or pass.
I do have a play for this game, but I'm going to give it out later on. But just a lean on the over. But good information. Sure. Good information you just gave out there.
Appreciate that.
Before we wrap things up, let's talk some NBA. As we get ready for the NBA Finals, we did not do a show yesterday. So the Celtics advance into the Finals. After knocking off the Heat in Miami, I got to tell you, another incredible performance by Jimmy Butler. I know he's been catching some heat over the past couple of days because of that 3. If there is one person on that Heat team that should not be catching any heat, it's Jimmy Butler. I'm not mad at him at all for taking that shot. Look, he played every second of that game. I ain't mad at him. He's like, look, we're either going to win this game or lose this game right now. No overtime.
Yeah.
No overtime. I'm done. But I'm also not mad that the Celtics won either. They're the better team and a much better matchup for the Warriors. So what are you looking for as we look forward to this series?
Yeah, another game, and it was close too at the end. If you were holding a Celtics -3 ticket, you were probably not feeling too hot the last 30 seconds of that game. It got tight, as these game 7s tend to do, and ironically enough, the game basically landed right on both numbers. The total for the game was right around 197, 198. It moved 199. It moved down. It closed like 195, and then it moved back up. So I think the consensus line was like 197. And the spread was 2.5, 3. The game landed 4 and 196. So odds makers are pretty good at getting these lines. And for an NBA game to land basically right on the number in game 7 of an Eastern Conference final, you tip your cap, and I'm happy that I didn't bet that game individually because honestly, it landed basically right on the number. That being said, the Celtics did cover and they did win, which means the streak continues. 22 consecutive NBA playoff games. The team that has won the game has also covered the spread. 77-9 in the playoffs. That is almost 90%, meaning 9 times out of 10, if your team that you're betting on wins the game, they're also covering. So what does that mean for bettors? Well, don't worry about saying the point spread is too big for whatever team's favored. Because again, 9 times out of 10, the spread doesn't matter. The team that wins covers. On the flip side, if you like the underdog, just bet the money line, because 9 times out of 10, when the underdog covers, they also win the game. I have no idea what to expect in this series. I hope we get Scal on before game 1. I mean, it's the Celtics in the finals. I'm sure. I think it's Thursday, right? We're gonna have them on before Thursday. I would hope. I have absolutely no idea.
It's rest. We don't know.
Really. We have no idea.
I mean, it's rest versus rust, but it's also like, are the Celtics ever going to put together a complete game? Like, are they ever just not going to fall apart at the end of a game? I feel like that's been the theme for them this postseason, falling apart at the end of the game, or for a quarter or a half, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, or both just completely disappear. I mean, at the end of the game, in Game 7, I believe it was an 11-3 run that the Heat went on to close things out in the last 3 minutes, and Tatum had 0 points during that stretch. Just like
they saw the finish line. The Celtics saw the finish line,
but that scares me. That scares me because
they stopped
you can't
running.
see the finish line with 3 minutes left in a Game 7.
You run through the finish line. You run through first base.
Yeah.
You don't slow down before you get to first base when you're trying to beat out an infield single. I agree with you.
That being said,
I think the Warriors are favored in the series for a reason. But I'll be honest,
sure.
I think Boston's the better team. I think Boston's the better team. And if Boston gets solid performances from their role players, I consider Horford and Smart and Derek White role players, I think Boston wins this series. I just don't know if we're going to get Marcus Smart 100% or Horford 100%. Al Horford's like 100 years old, and Marcus Smart has been injured and banged up and has had a really tough series. I don't know if we're going to get the most. I think the Warriors are fresher. Again, they've had a full week off. You're going to get a little more time in between each game in this series. I think Boston game 1 is how I would bet it, and then we go from there. But I'll let Scal chime in tomorrow. But I think I'll have a Boston money line playing game 1. I'm with
you on Boston. I'm with you on Boston right now. I've not gotten to the money line portion yet, but I'm with you with Boston plus the 3.5 points.
Sure.
Just because you mentioned, rest versus rust and all that, but what have we seen from this Warriors team? They come out slow. They really do. And I think that when you're playing that kind of game, that plays into Boston's how they want to play this game. Boston wants this to be a dog fight. They want this to be a street fight. They want this to be slow, defensive, and ugly, right? That's how Boston wins game 1, and that's how they win this series. And I think that what we've seen from the Warriors is at times they can come out, they can really struggle shooting. They can just be playing sloppy basketball. And I think that the rest actually kind of hurts them because I think that once the wheels start to turn, they start to turn quickly. So I think that Boston game 1 is the way that exactly.
Golden State's a rhythm team, and they haven't played in a week. They played last Thursday, and game 1 is this Thursday. How often in an NBA regular or postseason do you get 7 days off? Very rare.
You know what? It's actually funny. We got producer Jack in the chat, or Justin, excuse me. Celtics first half money line plus 118 on FanDuel. That's interesting.
I'd be honest with you. I would just bet the straight money line for the game too. But I think both plays are solid. I think the first quarter, also the Celtics first quarter has been a really solid bet too in this playoffs. That's another option for you if you're trying to get more derivative about it. There's the series price at the bottom of the screen, plus 130 for Boston, minus 160 for Golden State. There's no chance I'd lay 60 cents in the series. No freaking way. No way. I take Boston now, and if they lose game 1, I'll take Boston to win the series at a longer price after game 1. But you cannot bet Warriors minus 160 after a week off, and if they have a chance to lose game 1. Celtics plus 108 first quarter money line. I would be on that too. I'll wait for Scal to chime in tomorrow, but where my head's at right now, and it sounds like we're both on the same page, I think Boston takes an early game in Golden State. Maybe it's not game 1. Maybe it's game 2. I think if you bet both money lines, game 1 and game 2, both at plus money, you're going to go 1-1, and you're going to be up. I think that's if you just want to think about blind betting the series to start. We'll let Scal chime in tomorrow, but that's where my head's at right now.
Absolutely. We also have a comment from producer Justin. No sweat if you had Marcus Smart over 2.5 threes. I'm glad he brought that up. I'm glad he brought that up. I'm glad he brought that up because, listen, if you have been following the show for a while, you know that Marcus Smart's one of my guys. I love a Marcus Smart.
That's your dude.
Prop. I haven't seen one I don't like yet. It's almost a blind bet at this point just because I got to keep riding with my guy. But I want to talk about MVP odds, and stay with me here, because there
Yes.
are. I'll give you the guy that I like, and then I'll give you somewhat of a longer shot, and I'll tell you why. So Steph Curry, when we're looking at the Warriors, right? Steph Curry, I think, is the safe bet, even though he has not won a Finals MVP, right? So I think this could be the year for him, because if you've been paying attention to what the Warriors are this year, you know they kind of go to the beat of Steph's drum, per se, right? Like when Steph's on, the Warriors have a real shot. If Steph's off, the Warriors have no shot by and large, right? Especially this postseason. He's been very consistent, probably the most consistent Warriors player. And, he's just their dude. There's a reason why he's plus 110 with the shortest odds to win MVP here, right? The odds that are interesting to me when I'm looking at Warriors players, Andrew Wiggins, 41-1 at FanDuel, right? So the logic here is, again, if you've been paying attention to the Warriors, it feels like Wiggins has finally hit his stride offensively, which is great.
Yeah.
Right? He has a defined role. He's important. Averaged almost 20-7 in the Mavs series. Like he's an important role player, right? But a big reason why I'm looking at Andrew Wiggins, and I love this 41-1 number, is because I think that he is going to be spending a lot of time defending Jason Tatum, right? And if he can, I mean, by no means do I think he can, shut Tatum down or anything like that. But if he can make his presence felt on the defensive end and contribute that 20-7, I think that you got some value there at 41-1, because he's going to be one of those important pieces. Because if you remember who was it? Was it Iguodala that won MVP that one year against the Cavs? I believe it was Iguodala. Yes. Okay. It was because of his defense. How he defended LeBron James, right? Like that was where Iggy made his presence felt. So I think that Wiggins could have kind of a similar role. So I think that he's interesting, and I like the price of 41-1, like I said. But you got to shop around for these numbers, because Wiggins 25-1 at DraftKings, 41-1.
Yeah, definitely shop around.
FanDuel. So there's a lot of not a lot of consistency with these prices here. All right. I'm going to switch gears. Go Celtics. Tatum plus 180. Don't even need to explain this one. If the Celtics win the series, Jason Tatum's going to be the reason why. That's it. That's the explanation for that one. But my guy, Marcus Smart, 45-1. Okay. I know the people in Boston might not like Marcus Smart for whatever reason. I love him personally. And maybe it's just because I'm not in Boston and I didn't watch them consistently all season. But, I mean, defensive player of the year, right? Lockdown defender. We know what he can do on that end of the floor. He's going to spend a lot of time defending Steph Curry. And, again, by no means is he going to neutralize Steph Curry. But if he can make a name for himself and become a storyline, because this is all about narrative and this is all about stories, right? If he can start to get a little buzz around his name because of what he's doing defensively, and then offensively, he's a contributor as well. And, I mean, you can't tell me or him or anybody that he's not their best option or second best option offensively when he's making shots. Even when he's missing shots, he's still going to put up shots, right? And he's also a facilitator. Averaged 6 assists, 6 rebounds in that Heat series. I just think that he is an all-around solid player, and I think that 45-1 mispriced there, because I think he's going to, again, have a big role in this series one way or the other. He's either going to get torched or he's going to play his butt off, and that 45-1 is going to prove to be just severely mispriced. So those are my 4 guys that I'm looking at.
So historically speaking, the last 5 finals MVPs have all averaged at minimum 25 points per game. The last
25?
final MVP that hasn't was Andre Iguodala. He only averaged 7.8 points per game in that series. Now, so there is precedent for a guy not scoring, not rebounding that much.
Seven's kind of crazy.
7 is a ridiculous number.
If I remember correctly, I think that's the finals where there was a legitimate argument, like, should LeBron still win Finals MVP?
Of course, like, even though he was on the losing team.
Absolutely. I think he averaged a triple-double in that finals.
Probably. Now, the year before that, Kawhi Leonard with the Spurs only averaged 12.8 points per game. Now, later on, when he was with the Raptors, he averaged almost 27 points per game. So I think if you were going to ask me in this series, is the offense or the defense going to be the narrative? I would lean on defense. These are the top 2 defensive teams in the league.
Great defense.
In the playoffs,
right.
Efficiency-wise.
Yep.
So I would lean on, if you were going to say only 1 or 2 out of the last 7 finals have been a defensive-minded MVP, that's about 20, 30%. I would lean that maybe there's a chance that this is one of those because of the defensive prowess of both teams. And based off your Wiggins and Smart bets, those are defensive-minded bets. I have no issue there at all. And I would say if you are going to bet an MVP candidate early on in the process, which is before game 1, obviously, I would lean on a longer shot with an against-the-grain contrarian narrative, which is a defensive-minded series where a defensive-minded player wins the MVP. So I think you're definitely on the right path. And I'll take it even a step further. I saw Marcus Smart at Circa. If you're out in Vegas, you can go bet this right now at 100-1. That's a bet I would make. That is a bet I would absolutely make.
Yeah, I have to look at the books that I have access to here in Maryland, so I don't even.
Shopping around is key. You're right, though. There are massive discrepancies, similar to like the NFL draft, what we saw, because of just how the books are priced and who bets where and what the exposure is. You're doing yourself a disservice if you don't have accounts at multiple sports books shopping these numbers around. If you don't care that much, I get it, but you could miss out on 100-1 compared to 40-1. Pretty big difference.
Or 25-1. Or 25-1 at draft.
Sure.
Jared, just kind of along the lines of what you're saying. You know, I think we're both seeing this series as defense is going to be what's most important.
Yeah.
Because again, when I'm looking at the guys, the MVP odds and guys that I was considering, like, I think you can make an argument for a Jordan Poole, right? I think you can make an argument for, you can make an argument for a Jaylen Brown or a Klay Thompson, but I just think that I'm looking at who is each team's primary guy, who has the defensive assignment, and I like Wiggins on both sides of the ball, and I like Marcus Smart on both sides of the ball. I think I
wouldn't bet Steph. I don't see any value with Steph, and I just saw a great tweet about this. So the Warriors can win without Steph playing well. They have already this playoffs. He was coming off the bench at one point during the postseason. I don't think the Celtics can win without Tatum playing.
Right.
I don't see that happen. So if I had to say, I think you might get a better number with Steph at some point during the series, because if the Celtics steal game 1 or if Steph has a bad shooting game, he has to play elite for 4, 5, 6 games for him to win this award. And that's a tough bet at plus 110. Like, I could see the Celtics just saying everybody but Steph is going to beat us. Go ahead, Klay Thompson. You've been very hot and cold in the series, in the playoffs. Go ahead and beat us. Go ahead, Andrew Wiggins. You've been a role player for much of your career until recently. If you want to beat us in the finals, go beat us. We're not going to let Steph Curry beat us in the finals. And that's a tough number to bet at plus 110 for a guy that's going to get the bulk of the defensive schemes probably in this series.
I agree. All right, let's get out of here, wrap things up. Any 3-star plays on the site?
I didn't see one earlier today. I was on the golf. Hold on. Let me hit a quick refresh right now. Usually they actually get added like right as we're doing the show. Yeah, nothing now. Diane's got her golf plays on Homa and Rom, but for the most part, actually there is a baseball parlay that doesn't look like I see who posted it. But if you want a baseball parlay for tonight, that exists. But no 3-star individual bets tonight as of yet. Might have one later in the day. So keep hitting that refresh.
I like that. All right, your play of the day. Let's get the walk prop. Give us the walk prop of the day.
Well, if I'm betting a walk prop, I should bet on Michael Walker, right? I mean, come on. The jokes just write themselves. Sorry, I had to go there. Over 1.5 walks, plus 140 over at DraftKings. He's projected for 2.1 at Fangraphs. So Walker has been a walk machine. Walker. 29th percentile walk rate this year, and he's not missing a lot of bats. 9th percentile whiff rate, 7th percentile chase rate. His stuff is just not high-end stuff. Meanwhile, he has gone over 1.5 walks in 6 out of 7 starts this year. The one start he did not go over 1.5 walks was his last start against the White Sox, where he did not walk anyone. Well, let's take a little closer look. The White Sox have the lowest walk rate against righties this year at just under 6%. He's facing the Reds tonight. Their walk rate is nearly 9% against righties. So a big gap between where Chicago is and where Cincinnati is. This Reds offense actually has been kind of perky over the last few weeks. And I think they are going to get at least 2 base on balls against our friend Michael Wacha tonight. So we're going over 1.5 with the walks prop on Wacha.
Love it. Love it.
Don't forget to
I'm
take your
going
weight.
to the ice. I'm going to the ice. I'm going with the Avs on the 3-way money line tonight, -115. Not a tremendous price, but I think a fair price. I think a fair price for this Avs team. And I think they can handle business in regulation today. They're hot. Scored 13 goals in their last 3 games. This Oilers team has relied a lot, actually probably completely, on their offense this postseason. Defense struggled, averaging giving up more than 3 goals per game in the playoffs. The Avs have the edge defensively and between the pipes, and I think that they are going to be able to find the back of the net more than a couple times today. So I'm expecting the Avs to handle business in Game 1 in regulation, and I need to hit a play of the day. I think I missed back-to-back plays of the day, so I need to.
Uh-oh. You want me to look at the standings?
Please, because I think I was on a 4.
You were on a 4-game heater, and now you're on a 3-loss heater.
3 loss.
3-loss cooler.
I'm streaky. See, I'm streaky. I'm a streaky shooter.
You are very streaky because prior to your 4 straight wins, you had 4 straight losses.
Streaky.
It's one side or the other.
Listen, you gotta catch me.
These are tough. You're picking one play out of the whole board every day. These are not easy. It's not easy to do this, guys. Don't think it's easy. This is not easy.
If it was easy, I mean, we'd all be
rich.
We'd all have a lot of money, and Vegas wouldn't have these big, amazing casinos and facilities for us to enjoy when we go. That's for sure. All right, that'll do it for us today. For Jared, I'm Alex. We will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Good luck with all of your plays tonight. Avs, handle business regulation, please. Please. Come on.